Number 4 is the ability to create value and win-win scenarios, because the best podcast in the world, they don't have the mindset of extracting. They have the mindset of creating a win-win. There is a value trade that is going on. Now, sometimes that's just a value trade for attention, but the value trade is still there. So by the end of this episode, you will know how to design really win-win for your audience, for your guest, for your clients, for anybody who comes connected with your podcast. The goal and intention should be to provide value and to create win-win. And so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what value isn't. We have a mindset, and I think that it comes from degrading forms of religiosity and all of this different stuff, and that you are to show up and to give and expect nothing in return. And so you give and you expend out all of your energy and don't think that there should be anything coming back to you. And so in that scenario, that is a lose for you and a win for everybody else until you're expended and you drop dead because you have no more energy left to give. So I'm going to talk to you about alignments. Okay, align is ask yourself, what is the win? What is the win for your audience? L, have you laid out your win also? I, have you integrated your audience? Give, are you showing up with your assets, your best self? And then lastly is N, is there a no deal? Is there things that you don't do? Now, I think that final one is really, really important because we think of habits of all the things that we should do as far as podcasting and social media and all these different things, but we never really solidify the things that we are not going to do, the things we're not going to be about, the guests that we're not going to have, etc. Right? We never really solidified that. So I'm going to dive in first. We're talking about Gary Vee. Most of us this age are familiar with Gary Vee. I think he's probably even getting relevant to the age demographic that is below us. But anyways, most entrepreneurs my age know who Gary Vee is. All right. Started off the back of his dad's liquor store in New Jersey. There's a folding table and there's 3 bottles of wine. And there's a small camera that somebody just grabbed from Best Buy. Gary's about 30 years old at this time, and he's tired of kind of the humdrum, but his mind is on fire with ideas. And the store, which is his father's, is doing fine, but he doesn't seem to be too satisfied with fine. In fact, fine scares him. So he's watching in real time how the internet is changing everything, and he can feel the momentum and what is going to happen and what is going to take place. And he sees it moving fast, but he sees the people around him sticking to the same old things. And that is they're running discounts, flyers in the mail, sell harder, billboards, all of these old school things that we get involved in that we fail to innovate. So the pressure is real, right? He's helping. There is payroll, there is rent, there's inventory stacked everywhere. And he just needs to begin to step outside of the box and to innovate. So Gary starts asking himself a different question, and that is not how do I get people to buy? He asked, how can I begin to create wins for people? Because if they win, then I'm going to win. So he did something bold, which was innovative at the time, is that he jumps on and he hits record. Remember, this is 20 years ago. People barely even heard of YouTube and some of these other things. And so he hits record and he does little wine tasting, and he explains it in his rough, down to earth language that everybody can kind of understand. And he begins to tell what the product does in very down to earth language. And then the next day, daily show. He starts showing up every single day. Not a fancy studio, just raw and real and just adding value every single day. And as the weeks go by, as we know, because he is a multi millionaire, that things begin to shift. Orders started coming in from people that he never met, emails from viewers who now trust him, were beginning to work with him. And this all happened because he decided to take action. He decided to show up. He decided to get raw and real. He didn't let anything hold him back. And he decided what is going to be a win-win. From that action and from those behaviors, his business grew from 3 million annually to 60 million. Now, when you think of a 10x, you think of from 3 to 30. And that is he 20x'd his business because he decided to show up and get real and raw with people and create win-win scenarios and to take massive action. All right. So I'm using him as an example because he's really one of the best out there and he's still showing up. Now he's on TikTok about 2 hours a day, showing up, having conversations, engaging, being real, and creating a win-win scenario to this day. And he's worth somewhere to $300 to $600 million, and he's going to buy the Jets one day. All right, so we're going to talk about win-win alignment. Okay, win-win is not a vibe. It is a mindset, and it is a process, and it's something that you embody. And that is you are going to show up inside of the world and create win-win scenarios. Now, we know that not everybody shows up this way. Now, inside of the world today, we have givers and we have takers. We also have people that merely show up to get something in return. And we also have consumers, and that is the whole mindset is all about consumption, and they're not in a provider mindset. Now, I'm talking to you today because you have decided to step up and say, you know what, I'm not going to be just a consumer. I still consume, right? I consume content from top leaders who I believe can help me in some way, all right? So I consume content. And I read books, and I read the books because I believe that these people can help me get to where I want to go. So I'm not knocking consumption. What I'm saying, though, is that if our mindset is just merely consumption, then what we're going to get is we're going to get emotionally, spiritually, mentally fat, right? Because that consumption was meant to create a output, right? Same way like fuel for your body, food. Is all you are is doing is consuming and not moving, then that is going to lead to a state that you don't particularly want, okay? So you get what I'm saying. So you're here today because you're a leader and you are the kind of person that wants to stop being just a consumer, but you have taken on the embodiment of a provider. In fact, you provide some way and some fashion. Most of the people that are watching this, they're healthcare professionals, or they're coaches, or they've showed up in the world in some way and have decided that they are going to be a provider and not just a consumer. All right? World is filled with takers. The world is filled with consumers. But those who decide that they're going to give and those who decide that they're going to provide is very small. In fact, Jesus said, look on the fields. They are ripe and ready for harvest, but the laborers are few. And that's the mindset that I'm talking about here, is that we need to begin to step up, solve the problems that are inside of the world. All right. So asking the question, what is a win for me? What is a win for them? And how can I show up and embody this win-win scenario all around? Now, when it comes to anything that you create, there is a chance to get this all out of whack. In fact, there are many people that get this all wrong. And so I want to thoroughly explain what happens with your show if you get this wrong. Because if we go for a lose and a win, let's describe that one first. I win and my audience loses. What does that look like? Well, that looks like you providing no value and you showing up all the time just trying to sell. And that is that your only bottom line is your pocketbook and your money. And the only reason why you are in this whole scenario is to sell the person. And so you utilize your show as a pitch every single time. If you notice, if you have consumed a lot of my content, I've rarely ever pitched. I'm taking people to a destination. I want to set the frame. I want them to begin to initiate, to take action, to see what their life would look like with a podcast. Because if I can do that, then they would go to the next level. But as far as showing up every day with a sales pitch, you'll not get that from me. And so I had a client that wasn't getting the results that he was looking for. And so I went and reviewed his content, and every single episode that he did was really, really hard sales pitch. Now, let me tell you, that's not a win-win. That is a you win and they lose. There's really no value here for you to get. The only thing that you're going to get here is a sales pitch, and we're gonna ride that thing hard, and we're just going to drive home the points. We'll use all kinds of manipulations and fear tactics to do it. But let me tell you, what appears like a win for you is eventually going to be a loss. You think it's a win, but it's really not. That's the illusion of these win-lose scenarios. You don't actually win in the end. It just seems like a win. So you utilize that strategy and you might get some sales. But let me tell you, your retention and the people that come around, it's like, oh my God, I'm just so tired of hearing this guy try to sell me. So I'm not finding any value in this, so I'm no longer going to listen. All right. This happens when people just go into products and testimonials too. Well, I'm just going to utilize my show for my products. And all I'm going to be pitching is my products, or the people that I'm going to bring on are people that are testimonials. And so people that have used my product or went through my system and program, and that's all I'm going to do. Now, I think it's really important to interview the people that have gone through your coaching program, your systems, your processes, your products, all of those. I think it's amazing. In fact, inside of the customer journey, I recommend that you put your customer interview inside of the customer journey so you can interview them. It's a good time to get a testimonial. In fact, I have hundreds of testimonials, and most of them have come through that fashion. At the end of the podcast, I get them to talk about how was the launch, how was their process, was it made easy for you? And I grab that just little 3-minute thing there at the end that is now a testimonial for me. So absolutely utilize your episode for testimonials. But when you're creating a win-win, your show is not a constant sales pitch. It is not a testimonial thing. It is not a product thing, because that's going to lead to you perceiving that you're winning, but it's definitely going to be a loss for others, and it's going to be a loss for you in the long run. All right. Another way this plays out with a win-loss, or a perceived one, a win on your side, a loss for your audience, is that you begin to utilize your podcast for your own personal therapy. And I got to confess, starting out 8 years ago, I was in a mastermind and I was challenged to do a podcast every day for 90 days. And so I showed up and I did a podcast for 90 days. And it was just me for 12 to 20 minutes, just talking. And it was very therapeutic. I mean, I got a lot of stuff off my chest. A lot of people, if you don't know this, a lot of people get into podcasting, especially people who have had traumatic experiences and a troubled childhood and are going through a personal health improvement journey. They often launch a podcast for therapeutic reasons. And it has its benefits. But let me say, what is a win for you is like, that's cool that I have all of this therapeutic stuff going on with you and you're experiencing transformation. The whole show is about you and your personal diary and all of these different things. But when it comes to somebody else, and that is if I'm constantly focused on myself, then I'm never focused on the people that are listening, and then I never show up and provide value because it's all about me. All right, you get it. Another one is, and I've seen this, and I kind of loathed it entirely. No, I can't say that my mind won't change in the future, but at this current moment, I despise this. Once again, we're talking about a win for me and a loss for my audience. Is I've seen quite a few people charge high dollar for guests to be on their show. And by high dollar, some of these are really, really high dollar. You know, some of these are low, like $500 to come on my show. And some of them are $5,000 to $10,000 to come on my show. And so what I've seen happen is I'll use one example of this guy on YouTube that has done this. And he muscled his way to the top through money, and he got massive subscribers. He had an initial organic like hype, and then he put a lot of money into it and took it to the next level. So 2 million subscribers, YouTube, which is absolutely amazing. Muscled his way to the top. Now to get on his show is a certain fee. And so he's pimping out his show. And that is the only thing that his show is for revenue. And every single guest has got there because they paid to be there. Now, it doesn't matter if they're interesting. It doesn't matter this, that, and the other thing. It really doesn't matter because he got paid. And so the more of these shows that he could do, the better, because it's just pimping out a show and he's just making money. And that's really the only thing that matters to him. And you watch his shows and they are absolutely terrible. And what can you expect when you don't like pinpoint certain people and create a theme and create the energy behind it and have a different mission than that? If anybody can pay to be on there, then you are going to be so scattered with what you're doing. And then everybody is there with one intention, is to get eyeballs on them and to pitch something. So everybody shows up with kind of a sales pitch and this, that, and the other thing. And is he making a lot of money? Sure. But it's a loss to the audience. You're going to have to keep on pumping money into that thing because it is not interesting at all. He's riding the bandwagon of his initial subscribers, which will run out in the end because the show is not compelling or interesting whatsoever. All right. Another one I can think of is ranting. Now, maybe if you're a political entertainment show, I could see how this would help you. It won't help you sell anything, but it would help you in eyeballs on your content. And if you're looking for monetization, like get on there and rant and complain and get all these low energy vibes and all these different things and reach people that are at that level and whatever. But if you're looking to be high status and to sell high ticket stuff, getting on and ranting is not going to produce it might feel good. You got some things off your chest, but when it comes to the audience, eventually the rants, all they do is attract other angry people. That's it. Lastly, a win for the host, a loss for the audience is a vanity show. And I seen this happen. I was involved in a podcast app launch. I was the ground floor with the founders. And this founder is like I believe he's probably a billionaire by now. And it was really neat because we got to be in the virtual room with a billionaire. It was amazing. It was a cool experience, right? The ground level of the launch was all grassroots organic. And that is, he aspired the everyday podcaster to come and join. And so the first level was grass level, get everybody involved as possible, right? And so I was there, I got involved. It was an amazing experience. I mean, instantly had access to tens and thousands of people. So it had an influence with it. And then they went into phase two. And phase two it doesn't make sense in my mind. Phase two was to turn all the organic thing into merely consumers and then to bring in the elite crowd, that is all his cronies and all his homies and all the top tier people in podcasting and in shows. Think of like Jay Leno and Rachel Maddox, and think of like the real high elite people. And so phase two was sweep the floor with the organic, get them into consumers, and then replace them with the elite. And everything died down. I don't even know if this launch is still relevant. I don't even know if it's still there. I'm not going to mention by name because I don't want to call people out. But you go on there and it's just the super elite in all of their shows and nothing grassroots, nothing organic whatsoever. Everything has died down, right? This is a vanity thing. I'm going to parade all my network of elite people, and it's going to be a vanity metrics of look at who I am and look at who I'm connected with. And it's going to have no thought about the audience or what their needs are whatsoever, right? And I talked about this before, is that we often think that some of these elite guests are going to have the biggest impact. And let me explain the reason why that is not true. Okay. Most all the elite people, they're a tad bit narcissistic, if we'd be honest. And that is, if they're coming on your show, they're coming on their show for their own personal reasons. They can actually care less about you. And some of these people are like, well, how many downloads do you got? Do you got at least, 10,000 downloads an episode? Do you got at least 5,000? Because they are not going to waste of time. So anyways, the main goal in some of these big people is just what is in it for me. And a lot of it doesn't have any thought of adding value to anybody. All right. So there's the first case scenario. You're getting somebody who is kind of me-centered and probably narcissistic, and they're not really too concerned about you. They're just utilizing your platform to reach more people. All right. Then there's the second part to this, that unless you get an agreement, a verbal agreement or a contractual agreement, they are not going to push out your stuff. They're not going to promote it. They're not going to send it to their email list. Like, you really have to begin to finagle for them to do anything on their side, right? Now, there's a couple ways around this. One is to get a verbal agreement as you're doing the podcast. Man, thank you. At the end of the show, thank you for jumping on this podcast. Would you do me a favor, man? When we're going to create some assets and some stuff to promote on social media, would you be willing to do that? And so, like, face to face, you get kind of like a verbal commitment, and then you email them later and say, hey, I just wanted to thank you for your commitment to share the show when we talked on and so that would get somebody to remember, because people generally don't want to be douchebags and most people want to do what they say, though that's not always the case, but you'll get more results that way. But needless to say, it's very, very difficult for somebody of high status to even put anything in. They're in it for them. They're not going to promote it. They're not going to put it on their channels. You think that it's going to be something big. When you go on social media, it's a dime a dozen. I mean, they've been all kinds of shows. Their content is everywhere. It's not going to be anything special. But you get somebody, and I've found this to be true, that have never been on a podcast. Let me tell you, these people are the most evangelical. They are absolutely thrilled. Maybe they've already been successful in business and they have a practice. I work with a lot of people in practice, whether it's dentists, doctors, or chiropractors, or health, or whatever, that they have a local practice that is very, very successful. They've never been on a podcast, and you get to be the first. These people are extremely evangelical, and they are going to promote the show because they're on it. And they haven't been on 1,000 shows. Like, these big people can care less about any of that stuff. But the normal, everyday people and smaller people, you are going to find that your episode is going to get far more wings because it's far more significant and important to them. All right? There's the psychology behind that. All right, let's go into the next category. And that is, you lose and they win. This is a reality. I've worked with so many people that have been podcasting for some time, and it seems it's beginning to be a drain. And the drain is because they've been showing up consistently and doing the work and speaking into people's lives, and they don't feel like there's anything in return. So that is, they are giving, and there doesn't seem to be anything that is returning back. Now, the self-righteous religious mindset would say, well, you just suck it up and you're called to be a servant and you just give and give until it hurts and you should have no thought and idea about your own personal well-being whatsoever. All that is hogwash. All right. It is not healthy. Let me explain to you why it's not healthy. Is if you are in a relationship, let's say you're married, all right, and the other half wants the whole world to revolve around them. And everything is about me, 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 me. And all you are is a giver and you give until it hurts. You are going to expend your energy and there is going to be nothing left to give. All right. The best relationships are win-win relationships. The ones that are like vampires that suck you dry, they end up where the emotional bank account is withdrawn and there is nothing absolutely left. And you'll find yourself signing the divorce papers. That's the same principle here. Is that if you show up and you don't have something in mind as a win-win, then eventually you're probably going to quit. And so the other one was too focused on sales, and this one is not focusing on sales at all. You can see how either extreme is not going to create a win-win. So the solution to this is that I need something that is going to provide me revenue so I can have space and margin to keep on creating and keep on creating at a high capacity. All right. There's no better thing than money. Money is the greatest thing that will produce time and space for you to do these things. Okay. So set up your podcast with the mindset and intention that you are going to make money, that it's going to be a win-win, and that you are going to get a return on services rendered in some way or fashion. Now, the next thing that this could be a loss for you and a win for them is that if you only show up and give them what they want. Now, a lot of us, it's really difficult for us to even say what we want. We have no problem kind of saying what we need sometimes, but we have a hard time saying what we want. And I've gotten to the place where I've given myself permission to want certain things. I want a successful business. I want a podcast that is thriving. At the end of this whole thing, whether I exit in 5 years from business or 10 years, the time frame doesn't really matter. But at the end of this whole thing, I am going to have a influence and an audience that will sustain me the rest of my life, that I see and I want for this to be a source of income for the rest of my life. That's the end game. I want that. Now, why do you want that, Tim? Because I want that. And that's where the place where we got to be is like, no explanation needed. I want that because I want that. And not only do I want that because I want that, but I want that because I can. I can want that, and I can achieve that. Those should be enough right there. A lot of times we don't give ourselves permission. The reason why we're not successful at these different endeavors is because we never really set the intention, the destination. Go back to the episode, to the destination one, okay? So only give them what they want. Maybe they just want entertainment. Now let me tell you, it's really hard to monetize entertainment. You got to be really, really good to monetize entertainment. Maybe all they want is for you to teach them with no goal of transaction or working with you in the future. Whatever it is, that if our mindset is to only give them what they want, that is going to be a win for them and a loss for you. The next one is providing value. And this has been a big push. Show up, provide value. And the people that are pushing this out is, a lot of people, they're already in the category of the ocean. And I've talked about that in previous episodes. They've already made it. And they're showing up in a kind of a different level and capacity than us. And they're giving a lot away for free. In fact, some of them say, I'm giving everything away for free. And that's the win-lose that I want to address right now is that you think that providing value is giving away everything for free. Now, let me tell you the reason why this doesn't work. First, free is a value estimation. If I get something for free, the actual value behind the thing is not very large, right? because you have set the frame for what it is. If it is free, it is not that valuable. Free things are not that valuable. When somebody's doing a yard sale and there's a free bucket at the front, let me tell you, it's just a bunch of junk. The reason why it is free is because there is no proper value estimation to it. It's like, please take this because after I'm going to take it to the trash. There's no value in free, right? You take this into a relationship. A woman who, easy access, wants to give it up the first night, like the value placed upon the intimacy is very, very low. And I'm not trying to be crass or crude, but just give you another example, right? It's not that valuable. Now, the second part of this is if I don't have some skin in the game, then I'm probably not going to take it very seriously. And that is, you give somebody a free course and you give somebody a $500 course. Which one do you think is going to have more completions? Well, the 500 one is because they got more skin in the game. There's more value. There's more at stake, right? And so money, skin in the game, has a way of getting people to take massive action. Now, the people that say that they're giving away everything for free, they're not really giving away everything for free. Let's take Gary Vee, since we already used him as an example. He shows up, he provides so much value. He gives a lot away for free and all these different things. But let me ask you a question. Do you think to work with Gary Vee Media or Vaynerchuk Media, that they're going to bring you on as a client and it's going to be free? It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. Of course they're not. Just to even retain them is going to be some god-awful amounts that you're going to look at and you're going to squirm. That's just the reality, all right? So these people that say value, give everything away for free, this is the mode. That's not really what's happening behind the scenes, all right? Now let me say, if you show up and give away everything for free, you are going to be shooting yourself in the foot. Now, you should show up and provide value and give things away for free. But as far as the journey that you're taking people on, they're going to have to pay for that. How are you going to pay for that? All right, last win-lose on your part is there are certain guests that come along that it would be a great win for them to be on your show. Not a great win for you. It's not going to move the needle forward. There's not going to be a conversation that is beneficial. It's not going to connect and gel with your people. And so creating a win for them is going to be a loss for you. All right. So the goal in all of this is then balance. How am I going to create a win-win? That I'm not going to show up and to begin to sell hard, but I'm going to begin to sell. That I'm going to have the mindset of win-win. Now, the way this shows up on social media, and I've seen it plenty of times and have a tendency to drift there, and so you have to be cautious, is that you show up on social media to sell. And in reality, 2 times a week, selling something on social media is about all you should really do, in my mind. Now, this, of course, has the caveat, unless you're running ads and you're testing all these different things and you got money behind it. This is a totally different scenario. But I'm talking about like showing up organically with your post and thinking that it's sell. Now, you should literally only be showing up twice on each different thing with a hard sell. A hard sell is this is what we can do. This is where we can take you. Is this something that you're interested in? That kind of hard sell, right? And so if I have a main Facebook page showing up twice a week with some sort of message that communicates that, that's good. If I have a Facebook group, then showing up twice a week inside of the Facebook group, that's good. Now, the reason why I'm able to make money online is because, I show up on my podcast and I communicate so much value that people see the journey and they want to take it. I show up on my Facebook page, I make 2 solid ask a week. And then I show up in my 2 groups and I make the same ask. But let me tell you, the percentage is nil. And that is, think about this. If I show up in every single avenue and I only do 2 posts in each lane, on my main page, if I post 15 pieces of content, 2 content are going to be hard asks that take them to everything that I want. The other ones are going to be for social engagement, that is conversational, question, answer, response sort of thing. The others are going to be kind of like long form, get people thinking sort of thing. But the ask post or the hard sell is only going to come a very small percent of the time. All right. Same way. We don't show up on podcasts, social media with our percentages off whack. Okay. Our percentages, and you can do the math on that. If I show up twice on a 15 post, that means 13 are value post and 2 are sales post. Do the math on that. All right. And that should be kind of the ratio, is that yes, you can show up on your podcast and do hard sells, and you should within the proper ratio. All right. If you don't, all right, if you show up and it's sell in all of your different platforms, there really is no value. And you're just trying to get what it is that you can get from other people. And you're not providing anything in return. All right. You don't want to be that person. All right. So back to align. Am I asking what is a win for me and what is a win for them when it comes to audience and when it comes to guest? All right. A win-win with your audience is a value exchange, and that is they are giving you their attention. What do you owe them in return? Here's what I've decided. If somebody is going to take the time to watch me, my value exchange is that I'm going to give them massive clarity inside of this journey. I'm going to have them see kind of the journey and what it looks like so they can see where they're currently located. And I'm going to inspire them to take action to get off the sideline to fits. And so the value exchange is, if you give me my attention, then I'm going to be useful in these endeavors. All right. That's the way I showed up. All right. So the question of how does this serve my audience every time that I show up is really important. All right. This is going to keep you from showing up in main actor syndrome. Now, have you heard main actor syndrome? It's really funny. I don't know if it's an actual diagnosis, but hear me out. Main actor syndrome they got from like acting, of course, and the main actor, or the one that they paid high dollar to be there because they are the most influential and they can pull the most eyes. They show up and think that the whole scenario revolves around them. That is the set, the people, the director, everything is for them and their gift and their spotlights and all of these different things. They got main actor syndrome, and it's not about anybody else. And one of the worst things that we can do is show up on social media with any form of main actor syndrome. All right. So a win-win for your guest is when you are approaching a guest, make it all about them. And here's the best way to do this that I've noticed is like I would craft my email, and naturally it's going to, our natural tendency is to what's in it for me. I'm thinking about my objective. I really want to get them on the show. And I want to get them on the show because I have my reasons. I want to get inside of their network. I want more referral partners. I think this is an amazing person. I want them on my show. So I'm thinking when I write the emails, I want them on my show. And so what is naturally going to come out when you craft the emails is more of I want. It just kind of naturally, unless you begin to focus and recognize this and begin to shift. So what I often do is I take my initial thought and then I have AI recraft it for me. All right. I turn on my mic. I'm gonna say I'm about to do a cold email, and this cold email is going to go to a person who I want on my show. This person is a Christian businessman, and they have access to a big network of business owners. And I want to come across as not me-centered, but as focused on them and what they want. Can you recraft this email so it's more centered around what it is that they can gain or benefit from being on the show than my own personal benefit? Yeah, it goes boom. There you go. That's literally the inside scoop of how to begin to communicate. And then after you do that, have AI break down to you like 10 different ways to say this email, very direct, short, and to the point, and give it kind of different ways to come across this for different personality profiles. And then look at it and read it back to you. And then ask yourself, what is the person on the other end of the email going to connect with? Are they going to connect with humorous and funny? Or what are they going to connect with? With mine is these people are very, very busy. They're running, some of them $1 million of companies. They want you to be short and to the point. Say what you got to say and say it quick. Don't give me a one sheet. Don't give me 4 paragraphs. You give somebody 4 paragraphs in a one sheet and click instantly. They have to be able to read it within seconds, especially the first couple lines. And when they see that it's super, super short, what it communicates in their brain is like, oh, okay, I can do this. This is not going to be a time suck. I can go ahead and finish this line because the paragraph is so small. And reply back with something like, yeah, just reply back if you're interested and just let me know. And then you'll get a reply back. Not if you don't value people's time, if you don't speak to them in a way that reaches them. Let me tell you, I get pitches all the time that are as long as my arm. Each time I open them, I move on. All right, so communicate in what they view as a win. All right, once again, align. Are you asking what's their win? L, are you laying out your win? I, are you integrating the audience? Is there a value exchange that's being made with your audience? G, are you giving, showing up and giving some sort of value? And N, I'm not messing around with people that don't align. No deal. Remember that show, Deal or No Deal? Yeah, pick up the buzzer, don't slap it down. No deal. All right? So people that are good, pick it up, slap down, deal. But you're going to have to face the no deals inside of your influence in your podcast, okay? All right. Hope you found value. I will see you tomorrow.